Hey, what's up everyone? It's been almost a month since Tiebreak was fully released. Since then, the developers have dropped a bunch of small patches. They've been tweaking gameplay, making the CPU harder, and adding new stuff like players and costumes. I took a break from the game for about a month, but now I'm back to check if Tiebreak has gotten any better. So, here are my general thoughts on where Tiebreak stands right now. The developers are clearly trying to fix the game, so we've got to give them credit for effort. But sadly the results are not that great. These patches seem to improve one thing, but break something else. Big Ant Studio is also throwing in quick fixes with gameplay tweaks to make the game harder and to hide the bad computer logic. And yeah, Tiebreak is a bit harder now, but it's not harder in a fun way. The difficulty feels cheap and unrewarding, at least to me. Also, the farther we get into Tiebreak's updates, the less the game feels like real tennis. The ball just moves way too fast when playing against computer. Seriously, while you are watching this video, pay attention to two particular things. One, the speed of the ball in the gameplay, and two, the direction of the computer's shots. Then tell me in the comments if this looks like a real tennis match to you, cause to me it really doesn't. So, is Tiebreak better now than it was a month ago at launch? Yeah, in some ways it clearly is. But is it a good game now? Would I recommend it to friends? Hell no. Well, unless all they care about are cool graphics and proper licenses. In that case, yeah, sure. Alright, now let's talk about how Tiebreak plays a month after release. Let's start with the biggest topic, the difficulty. A lot of players have complained that Tiebreak was way too easy. Big Ant Studios listened and tried to fix it by making the game harder. Every new patch has added gameplay tweaks or changes to the CPU to make it tougher. So, did they solve the problem? Well, no, not really. I mean, yeah, the game is harder now, but not in a good way. Let me explain. The problem with the AI was that it was really dumb. The CPU couldn't play anywhere near the net and made way too many mistakes. In Tiebreak, all you had to do was hit a short ball and 9 out of 10 times the AI would just mess up and either hit the net or make an error. So what did developers do? They didn't fix the dumb AI. Instead, they just made it hit super fast flat shots all the damn time. The computer now keeps aiming at these particular 3 spots on the baseline over and over again. And if your shot is too far away for a flat shot animation to kick in, the computer will just make a weak block shot. Best of all, that shot almost always goes into the net. But that's not all. The computer now plays super accurately, hitting the lines with no risk whatsoever. Meanwhile, they've made it harder for you to do the same. Yep, you heard that right. Your most aggressive shot, the one that used to paint the lines a month ago, now lands closer to the middle of the court. For some reason, developers thought it's a good idea to handicap players to make the game harder. I guess they were hoping that we wouldn't notice. So what's happening here is that the recent patches made the player weaker and turned the computer into a flat shot machine from the baseline. Does it make the game harder? Yeah, it does a bit. But does it make Tiebreak fun and rewarding? No, not at all. It feels cheap and skewed. See, when Tiebreak first came out of early access, the matches were super boring, and you could win easily against computer 6-0 even on expert difficulty. Now it's just frustrating back and forth like a ping pong match, where you win 6-1 on the highest difficulty. Another issue with the gameplay is how fast the ball moves now. Matches against the computer feel like they are stuck in high-speed mode. And with each update, Tiebreak looks less and less like real tennis. I mean, the ball is moving so fast that recently even slice animations for some players were too slow to work properly. Before they patched it, your player would just use block shots instead of slices during rallies. Just look at the gameplay in this video. It's all about speed with no change of pace. It's just one bump after another from computer. Sure, it might keep you on your toes, but it doesn't feel real, authentic, or fun in the long run. In the recent patches, Big Ant Studios also changed how movement works in the game. And these changes are actually really good improvements. First, we now have different control scheme options. One of the new options lets us use just one trigger for scramble instead of having to hold two triggers at the same time. That's a good change. More control options are always a plus. But scramble is still in the game, and until they remove it, I will keep complaining about it every time I talk about Tiebreak. Seriously, if they just took out scramble mechanics, the game would instantly get better. Another positive change to movement is that running is now slower, especially in Scramble's Super Turbo mode. It got nerfed a bit, and that's great. Now you are not always faster than the ball, which is a good change. There's also more inertia when you change directions, but sadly inertia still doesn't play a big role in Tiebreak. This is because of the excessive animation locks in the game. Animation locks cancel out a lot of movement mechanics since they let players do superhuman things. So, until they get rid of these animation locks, the game won't require much skill when it comes to moving your player. And besides these positive changes, there's also a new annoying issue. Players are now more unresponsive than before. You might think it's because you got wrong-footed, but that's not it. Sometimes your player just doesn't respond to your inputs. They'll just stand there, barely moving, even when you're holding the stick to either direction. It's really weird, annoying, and inconsistent. Another big problem in Tiebreak's earlier versions was the lack of shot balance. So, how is shot balance now? Well, it's actually better than ever before. Neither the topspin nor flat shot is completely broken in the current version of the game, which is great. Topspin got nerfed, but it's still useful, while flat shots are now a more viable option. However, using flat shots is mostly limited to hitting the ball through the middle of the net. And even though the slice shot is a little bit better than it was at the launch, it still acts more like a drop shot in Tiebreak than the actual slice. I've actually found that the best way to win matches in Tiebreak right now is to rush to the net and use a variety of volleys. Once you get to the net, you can actually consistently win against both the computer and real players online. Now let's talk about career mode. Training has finally been added to the game, so we can now improve our players' ratings. Yay! You can take part in training sessions to boost your stats. Personally, I would have preferred just being able to adjust points in the menu without having to do a minigame every time. But I guess the developers wanted to make career mode more like topspin. Some of you might actually like it. We can also now play through multiple seasons in career mode, which is again a positive change. But, and there's always a freaking but with Tiebreak, there is still an annoying problem with career mode, the charity events. Charity events are the only way to unlock new animations for your player in Tiebreak. At the start of the career, you can plan to join these events, but there are only 5 of them in the entire career. So we basically can unlock only 5 new animation sets in our career, which is pretty ridiculous considering the game has like 120 players by now? What makes this even worse is that if you don't plan joining these charity events right at the career start, they will simply disappear from your calendar later on. This issue makes you stuck with generic animations in your whole career. Another issue that developers are slowly fixing in Tiebreak is how statistics actually work in the game. When the game first came out from early access, the only stats that really mattered were running speed and shot power. But now, stamina actually impacts gameplay too. Players actually get tired during the rallies, especially those with low stamina ratings. But unfortunately, precision and spin stats don't really matter still, and they don't make any difference, at least based on my own experience. Lastly, we've got new players added to the game and some new outfits, which is always nice addition. Players even got their US Open outfits, which is really pretty cool. If they ever manage to fix the gameplay, and that's a big fucking if, then we will have a nice amount of content and players to enjoy in the game. But as things stand right now, lack of content isn't the problem with Tiebreak. The game has plenty of content, so I would prefer if they focused on fixing the gameplay and technical issues instead of just adding more stuff. But hey, maybe that's just me. So, those are the main things I've noticed since coming back to the game. Some technical issues were fixed, a few gameplay tweaks were made, and the computer opponents turned into superhumans at the baseline. Right now on the screen, you can see the full list of the main problems I found when reviewing Tiebreak at full release month ago. I have marked in green the issues that got fixed, yellow for the ones that were improved, and red for the ones that stayed basically the same. Plus, there are 4 new issues from the patches over the last month. Overall, Tiebreak is still a bad game when it comes to gameplay. I recently played AO Tennis 2 and had more fun with that than with Tiebreak, and that says a lot. So, if you're looking for a tennis game that actually feels like real tennis, Tiebreak ain't it. But if you don't care much about the gameplay or the realism and just want to have pretty graphics with good licenses, then hey, maybe Tiebreak is for you. So, that's my feedback on the current state of Tiebreak. It seems like actually a lot of people who responded to my recent poll on the channel about the game's progress actually like what Big Ant Studios is doing with the game. Well, I am clearly not one of them. So, let me know in the comments what you think about current state of the game. Anyway, that's all from me in this video. Thanks for your time and I'll see you in the next one.